Logic's selection-based processing function is one of the most powerful yet most widely overlooked feature in this DAW. So let me show you a couple of really useful examples where you can use this fantastic function for batch processing. Let's get into it. Now on screen, you can see I've got 25 guitar tracks with acoustic guitar recordings that I want to warm up with these really lovely saturation plugins. I want to apply some tube distortion and tape saturation color to all of these. But as you can see, I haven't got these plugins inserted on any of these guitar tracks, nor on the master stereo bus. However, all of these guitar recordings are going to be passed through this chain, processed and saved very, very quickly. So let me show you how. First thing I'm going to do is come up to the first track and select the first audio region. Then come to functions, then choose selection-based processing. Now this is our selection-based processing unit. Now under plugins right here, we can choose to insert any of Logic's range of plugins, as we can see right here. For example, I can put a channel EQ there, and how about a tape delay, and how about a compressor? And we can continue to extend the chain using the new slots as they appear underneath the very last insert. Inserts are not restricted to just Logic plugins. We can also insert audio units. And that's what I've got right here. I've got this chain of 3 Awesome Waves plugins. Firstly, the Magma BB tubes, and I'm using a Clean Guitar 1 preset by Yode Nevo. The signal then feeds into a tube channel strip, which is the Magma channel strip. And again, I'm using a preset. This one is Ben Fowler's Gentle Wake Up. And at the end of the chain, I've got the Waves Abbey Road J37 plugin, and I'm using the Abbey Road default preset for this one. So let's quickly bypass all of the plugins and have a quick listen to what the guitars sound like in isolation. What we do is select the track and region that I want to audition, and then come down here to preview. How about this one right here? Now, although the recordings are pretty clean, I want to add a bit more life, a bit more warmth, a bit more color to each of these. So let's have a listen to what they'd sound like with the plugins firstly bypassed and then enabled. And now enabled. Okay, more energy and more character. How about this one? This one as well. Let's start with the plugins enabled and then switch them off and hear the difference. And now off. So it's not just volume, we're adding additional character and saturation. Definitely worth noting that this method is not just used for processing guitars like these. You can use it for dealing with drum loops, your synth stems, or even individual samples. So now we've seen how it's all set up. Let me show you how we do the batch processing and save these as unique files. I'm now going to use the Logic key command, Command A, to select all of the regions, and now we'll be processing based on our selection. That's why it's called selection-based processing. We're going to keep all of these plugins as they are. Down here, I'm not going to create a new take. However, I am going to add an effect tail, and I'm going to select overload protection just in case the gain peaks a little bit, and that way we will avoid overload and clipping. Now when I hit apply, all of these guitar loops will be replaced by new versions which have been processed with this plugin chain. Let's do that now. Okay, so here are all of our newly created processed guitar loops. We no longer need this panel right here. Once again, use the key command, Command A, to select all, right click, come down to export, export as audio files, navigate to our desired folder. I've got Magma Guitars right here. And what I'm going to do is create a custom name, Magma Guitars, and I'm going to add the increment element right here and then hit export. And now when I look in my Magma Guitars folder, I can see all of my newly created batch guitar loops. Okay, so here's another really useful way in which you can use this process. Now, as you can see on screen, I've got all of these voiceover stems, which I recorded for a tutorial. It could be for a podcast. It could be any situation where you're recording lots of vocal takes. But the key thing is all of these recordings were done in the same environment or the same room. Now, they weren't recorded in an acoustically dead zone like a vocal booth. It was just in a regular room. And as a result, there's some inherent background noise, which I'd like to remove. Rather than having to process them track by track, we can remove the noise using the same selection-based processing method. So let's have a quick listen to a small section of this voiceover. So here's an example of a set of recordings where you might want to use a plugin to remove background noise from your vocal recordings. So there's clearly background noise in this recording, which is going to be the same in all of the rest. Now, if you want to see my dedicated video on how to deal with background noise, you must check out the card above or the link in the description. It's one of the most popular videos on my channel and it's well worth the watch. Anyway, what we're going to do right now is use a key command, Control Z or Z, to zoom in on this track. And as you can see, there's a bit of silence right here. I'm going to create a cycle loop around this section right here. Let's have a listen. Okay, now as you can see on the master bus, I've put a logic adaptive limiter just so you can hear the noise more clearly. Great. Staying on this first track, I'm going to use a fantastic plugin by Waves, the X Noise plugin. And before I move on, just to remind you that all of the Waves plugins I'm using in this video, you can download and try out absolutely free of charge. There'll be links in the description that will take you to the very specific plugin that you want to try. Click it, try it. If it works for you, then take the next step. Anyway, let's get back to this one. So I've got the X Noise plugin on the first channel. I've also looped around a section of background noise. The next thing I want to do is set the resolution to high and then click Learn. Now, playback. Now, this plugin has learned what the noise signature sounds like in this recording, which is going to be pretty much the same with all of the others. We switch off Learn and now have a listen to this. Completely silent. Let's bypass. Gone. Let's have a quick listen to the voiceover. So here's an example of a set of recordings where you might want to use a plugin. Now that I've done this process, I'm going to copy this X Noise setting. Now bypass the plugin and let's close this. Let's go to functions. Once again, selection-based processing. And in my insert slots, I've got two things. I've got a logic channel EQ where I'm filtering noise below 100 Hertz. And I've got an instance of the Waves X Noise plugin. All I need to do now is hit paste. Remember, you need to bypass this one, or you could even take it away. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to change the gain to overload protection. And with the first region selected, let's preview. So here's an example of a set of recordings where you might want to use a plugin to remove background noise from your vocal recordings. Okay, that works just fine for me. The next thing I'm going to do is use the key command, Command A, to select all. Now, before we do this, make sure you have a backup of all of your original recordings, because what we're about to do is we're about to apply this processing to these regions on screen. We're replacing the regions that are on screen. So keep a backup of the originals just in case something goes wrong and you need to go back a step. Let's hit apply. And now these are our new files. So here's an example of a set of recordings where you might want to use a plugin to remove background noise from your vocal recordings. Now, as we did before, Command A, select all, export as audio files, navigate to your save folder. I'm going to call this processed audio. Then I'll add the increment element, export. All of my new voiceover files are here. Let's have a listen. So here's an example of, now as always, if I'm bringing you value with these videos, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and check out my other videos on the same topic. There'll be links at the end that will take you right there. And don't miss out on testing out the fantastic Waves plugins that I've demonstrated here, absolutely free of charge. So until next time, I'm Deuce, I'm out. Peace.